PKR Deputy President Rafizi Ramli's claim that Pakistan Harapam would not agree to a pardon for incarcerated former Prime Minister Najib Razak will hardly ruffle feathers in UMNO, analysts said. Azmi Hassan of Akademi Nusantara said Rafizi's stance was neither PH's nor Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's official standpoint on the matter. Azmi said it would not trigger Barisan Nasional to leave the government. However, he said there is a possibility that it could see some protest votes in the Pelangai by-election next month, although he does not expect it to result in any significant change to the outcome of the polls. He said it will have little impact because Najib is from Pahang. Najib was the Pekin Member of Parliament. Sajah Shukri of the International Islamic University Malaysia said while Najib remains a popular figure, a large portion of UMNO supporters were yearning for reform. These supporters want to distance themselves from those accused of corruption. Sajah said. So this, Rafizi's comment, is a minor issue in terms of UMNO's support for the unity government. She said BN has bigger issues to deal with, including improving its electoral performance. As a result, Rafizi's remarks would likely be disregarded. Unless more changes are made, UMNO supporters are more likely to turn to Perikatan Nasional regardless. Asmil Taib of University Sains Malaysia, USM, however, feels the possibility of a boycott by UMNO members or a defection to PN has always been there, regardless of whether PH supports Najib's pardon. Like Azmi, he believes Rafizi's remark would not see BN quit the unity government. The alternative is more unpalatable. Also, the rot within UMNO goes beyond Najib's pardon. PH has to make clear to UMNO that Najib's pardon is the red line it is not willing to cross. Najib is serving a 12-year jail sentence after being convicted on charges of abuse of power, money laundering and criminal breach of trust over SRC international funds amounting to Rm 42 million. Committee should be set up to approve future legal experts believe a committee should be set up in the future to review decisions to discharge those accused of serious offenses instead of putting the power solely with the Attorney General. Senior lawyer Dato Joy Wilson Apakuttan said the committee, which could be chaired by around 3 to 5 people, must be made up of independent persons who can review the process and provide their views before any action is to be taken to discharge the accused. He said this following Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim's explanation in Parliament that he did not interfere with the AG's decision to grant Deputy Prime Minister Dato Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi a discharge not amounting to an acquittal over his 47 Yayasan Akal Budi, YAB, corruption case. He said former AG Tan Sri Idris Harun had full authority in line with Article 145(3) of the Federal Constitution. Several parties have voiced their dissatisfaction and protests as the prosecution had already established a prima facie case. Joy said this is absolutely true from a constitutional point of view. The discretion lies with the AG as set out in Article 145(3) FC. The way forward is to amend this article, which will require a 2/3 majority in Parliament. So if all MPs, from both sides of the divide, are in agreement to amend the article, then the government should work on the amendments. We can see the dangers of vesting power in one person. Meanwhile, senior lawyer Dato Jithan Ram Vincent, commenting on the matter, said Anwar's answer was sufficient and that there was nothing unusual in granting DNAA. He said the AG was acting well within his powers, and there was no interference from Anwar or anyone else. He said, "The power is vested with the AG and only the AG. The AG acts independently, and this has been confirmed by the Prime Minister himself. The DNAA order was by the judge. Prosecution requested for DNAA and defense asked for DAA, but the court decided to order DNAA. Is it uncommon for the prosecution to apply for DNAA? No, it's not. Has it been done before? Yes, in various circumstances, depending on the circumstances. Earlier this month, Zahid was freed from 12 criminal breach of trust, CBT, charges, 8 counts of bribery and 27 for money laundering, involving scores of millions of ringgit belonging to YAB. He was accused of committing the offences between March 28, 2016 and April 11, 2018. He was charged on October 19, 2018 and was later ordered to enter his defense. Zahid's lawyers have appealed for a total acquittal to the Court of Appeal. The police have identified 3 people who have not had their statements recorded for alleged involvement in the Save Malaysia gathering here last Saturday. Kuala Lumpur Police Chief Dato Aladdin Abdul Majid said they have identified 28 individuals, but as of today, only 16 of them have come forward to provide statements. He said several more people have been summoned and they are expected to come forward to have their statements recorded soon. He said, "We are currently making efforts to locate 3 more people, and we hope to conclude the investigation and submit the investigation papers later this week." So far, the investigation is progressing smoothly. We hope these 3 people can come forward soon. If they fail to do so, we will reveal their names. Media had earlier reported that the police identified 25 people, including a member of parliament, who were involved in the Save Malaysia gathering here on Saturday. The police initiated an investigation into the Save Malaysia gathering in front of the Sogo shopping complex here under the Peaceful Assembly Act 2012. The gathering was led by Muafakat Nasional Supreme Council member Dato Tun Faisal Ismail Aziz and Save Malaysia Gathering Secretariat Bedrul Hisham Shaharin, also known as Chegubard. PKR Deputy President Rafizi Ramli reportedly said that race-based politics is the easiest way to gain Malay support. The Pandan Member of Parliament said this is the approach of most Malay-majority political parties, hence, DAP is often targeted as a symbol of non-Malays in this country who need to be subdued simply to gain power. He said, Malay political trends show that when these parties find it difficult gaining support through positive policies and ideas, they fall back on the path of least resistance, which is the path of racism. Perception-wise, DAP is equated with the Chinese. In reality, it is not a question of DAP, but of political parties in Malaysia that take the easy way to get the support of the Malays by stoking the fire of racism that this country must crush the Chinese. This is dangerous for the country. The economy minister said if they continue to rely on this method to gain power, these Malay majority parties will harm the Malay race itself, adding that they should compete in a healthy way. He said, even though I am in PKR, no non-Malays have ever criticized me even though we talk about Bumiputeras because it is not wrong to discuss how we want to better our own race. No one is angry. In Kelantan and Terengganu, there are no Chinese, but have problems been resolved? Is it the case that with the absence of Chinese in Kelantan and Terengganu, they are rolling in wealth? Not even. Rafizi then went on to say that it would be impossible for Malaysia to get out of its present rut by focusing on the Malays only, as the country needs to compete on an international level, and therefore, should combine all its strengths, including that of the Chinese and the Indians, in one team Malaysia to challenge others. He said, if you were to ask Sanusi to suggest how Malay faculties can be improved upon, it would be hard for him to say so. Hence, it is easy for him to hit out at the Chinese. If the use of racism in politics continues, the Malays will end up being the losers. The non-Malays will continue looking ahead and progress further, but the Malays will retreat into their shell, and that's where the real problem lies. This is why I want no part of it when people say DAP, because for me, it is a Malay problem, not someone else's problem who wants to oppress the Malays. Former Bersatu Information Chief Dato Wan Saiful Wan Jan said Reformasi is no longer the government's agenda or priority after Dato Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi was granted a discharge not amounting to an acquittal. Taisek Galugar Member of Parliament is claiming last night that this followed the dropping of other charges involving politicians after the Pakatan Harapan became the government. He said, I think this is what the government wants now, when individuals whose integrity and credibility were previously questioned are finally freed from all charges by using existing powers. This means that the Reformasi touted by the PH government and Barisan Nasional is long dead. Wan Saiful called for the separation of powers between the Attorney General and the Public Prosecutor to be implemented immediately to ensure that everyone is equal before the law. He added that Perikatan Nasional will take over the reforms if the PHBN coalition fails to do so. He said, "The long sought for separation of power seems to have been forgotten by the government, even though we started fighting for this issue since 2010. If PHBN cannot do it, PN can, because we are more consistent when it comes to reforms than the current government." On September 4, Zahid, who is the Deputy Prime Minister and BN Chairman, was granted a DNAA for all 47 of his corruption, criminal breach of trust, and money laundering charges involving his foundation, Yayasan Akalbudi. A DNAA means that an accused person can be charged again with the same charges. Yesterday, Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim denied in Parliament that he had a hand in the decision. He said it fell within the purview of the Attorney General and questioned those who hurled allegations against him, including the opposition bloc. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad's role as an advisor to a grouping of 4 PS-led states will not have any bearing on Muhyiddin Yassin's standing as Perikatan Nasional chairman, analysts said. Akademi Nusantra's Azmi Hassan said Mahathir would merely be an economic advisor to the group, known as the State Government 4 or SG4. This, he said, would be similar to the role played by Anwar Ibrahim in the Selangor government previously. Azmi believes PAS merely wants to use the former Prime Minister to its benefit to give the state governments of Perlis, Kedah, Kelantan and Terengganu, which it governs, some economic credence and clout. Mahathir's advisory role would also help to get rid of the negative stigma often associated with PAS-administered states, he added. He said Mahathir, being a former prime minister, has vast experience. His clout and influence is particularly important in terms of spreading the perception that the 4 states are heading towards a better future. Last week, Terengganu Menteri Besar Ahmad Samsuri Mokhtar said a grouping of PN-led states was in the works with Mahathir acting as its unofficial advisor. Samsuri said Mahathir's role would be primarily to advise on effective and efficient governance as well as to connect the states with foreign investors. However, UMNO's Salah said Kerouac claimed the move was aimed at projecting Mahathir as PN's de facto leader, thereby diminishing Muhyiddin's prominence. James Chin of the University of Tasmania, however, does not think this latest development would affect Muhyiddin in any way, as Mahathir would only be serving as a mentoring icon. He said PN was uniting different parties and icons to go up against Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and the unity government under its big tent concept. Nonetheless, he said, PN's dominance would not be usurped. He said they're only after one thing, which is to pull down the Anwar-led government, so if Mahathir wants to help them, why not? Mahathir wants to pull Anwar down as soon as possible. Time is running out and age is catching up, Ibrahim Sufyan of Merdeka Center, however, said using Mahathir to discredit the ruling government could be counterproductive for PN, as the former prime minister was no longer as popular as he used to be. Thank you.